Topo Athletic is committed to lifelong health and better movement. Topo builds running shoes for those who get out there every day, regardless of weather, speed, energy, or mood. Their distinctive fit and feel combines instinctive human movement with modern performance and lightweight comfort to help you keep going, keep trying, and keep moving. Discover the Topo difference and step into a run experience unlike any other.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the 107th episode of the Fireside Chat. I can't believe we're saying that. It feels like probably just a couple weeks ago we were celebrating our 100th episode with Adam, and now we're on 107 going into 110 pretty soon. But really excited to have today's guest on. I was actually just on her podcast a couple weeks ago. Had a chance to interview her a couple of weeks ago, and we met through a mutual contact on LinkedIn. And this lady has a resume. That's all I can say. She is a mountaineer. She is a skier. She's ran 26 marathons, executive business coach and coaches athletes, really loves the sport of running. But in addition to that, she gives back to the community in other ways by being a TEDx speaker, but also through her show, Take It From the Iron Woman, which has over 400 episodes in 5 languages and has been inspiring people everywhere. And I'm just really excited to have this person on the show. And without further ado, let's bring her center stage. Welcome to the show, Susanne.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to have you, but knowing you're from New York too, I'm a little afraid to ask this next question. But we have an icebreaker question that we typically start with, and it's a food-related question, nothing hard-hitting. So are you ready for the icebreaker?
Oh, yeah, sure. Bring it on.
Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Pineapple.
On pizza.
Oh, no. On pizza, no, never.
You know what? I can't even be mad about that one. That was the best reaction so far, because it's like, it wasn't even like no immediately. You were just like, it was like, that's so absurd. Pineapple?
Because it is.
No, I'm close to Italy where I was born, so they say never pineapple on pizza. Come on. They say like this.
That's right. You see? Exactly.
I
Imagine walking to a pizzeria in New York City and asking for pineapple. They just throw you out.
Oh, no.
I'm not a savage, guys. I would not go to a New York pizzeria and ask for pineapple on my pizza. And even when I went to Scotland and found an Italian place, like I had a Neapolitan. I had to. I absolutely had to. I love the reaction. That's got to go on one of our highlight reels for pineapple on pizza.
The best.
So I wanted to go back to where the story began. We talked about this a little bit when we were interviewing. And for those of you guys who don't know, Susanne's story is coming out on our platform on May 24th. So excited to have that on our platform. But you grew up in Switzerland, and you were not always a runner. You actually started out mountaineering, like as a skier. So talk about that experience a little bit.
Yeah, I'm proud to say that for after-school programs, we had skiing. So we basically, within 30 minutes, we're in a not very known ski resort, but a very cool ski resort. You could go off-piste, you're behind, like you see trees and everything, and you go up the slopes. And this was just the best time. And then moving to New York, it's a little hard to ski in New York. So then I gave up my beautiful skiing for running, which is also a fantastic activity to get to know people, to be outdoors, and to kind of like clear your mind after a busy day of work. And especially New York, everything is busy. So I thought New York and Central Park was kind of like my backyard. I call it my second home. And when you're in New York City, you always meet the same people at the same time, because I think runners are a little bit crazy, and they're always there at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, or 6 o'clock, or whatever time it is.
Have you gone out to the Poconos to try to get skiing in from New York?
Yes, I've been skiing in New York, upstate New York. It's too cold for me because I don't feel my toes anymore. And also, it's too icy. I like the powder snow and the real snow. I grew up skiing, actually put on the skins of
Yeah.
the animals, and we would go up the mountain and there would be nobody. And also in Switzerland, we pride ourselves to have good food, maybe not pizza, but real good food on the ski slopes. So when I came to, I think it was Hunter Mountain.
Yes.
What? It's this ugly chocolate with water and no good food. It was junk food. I'm sorry, whoever goes to Hunter Mountain or Vermont, I love to have good food when you ski. So maybe I'm a little jaded when it comes to skiing and food.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think skiing in the northeast of the United States is ice skating down a mountain, as opposed to skiing. Whereas out west, you have more opportunities for powder and probably similar terrain to what you experience in Switzerland. But food-wise, you're correct as well. It's not. I've never been skiing in Switzerland, but I would imagine that like it's a meal as opposed to here where it's more like a snack. Where get back out on the run for the next, get back on the chairlift for the next run.
No, you have the best food. I think for the foodies, you have to go to Switzerland. You have the cheese, you have the raclette, and good wine. Obviously, alcohol is not the best when you're skiing, but it just goes with it.
I'm officially jealous.
And I think I mentioned this before, but my girlfriend went to Switzerland for her, like winter, and brought back the hot chocolate. And I thought I'd been having good hot chocolate my whole life. Every time I have, obviously I'm not a good comparison because the last time I had hot chocolate was during a race at an aid station. So it's like water, but like when I had the hot chocolate you guys have over there, I was just blown away. I could not believe how good it was.
We're a little spoiled.
So I wanted to, like you moved to New York, you got into running. When did you realize that you wanted to do a marathon?
This is so funny. So I started to run on the reservoir in Central Park. It's just 1.7 miles, easy. Then I did a second one. I was like, I don't know if I can do more. And then I joined the running classes. Every Tuesday night I would go. And there was this girl, and I think she was a professional boxer. And she ran a 10K. And I said to her, how is it to run a 10K? This for me was like Mount Everest. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Then I did the 10K, like piece of cake. And then you do a half marathon, you go, and then you sign up for the marathon, and there you go. But it's kind of like unknown territory. And once you've done one, you want to do better, you want to do more. And then you got into that marathon bug, and 26 marathons later, this was a way to get to know the US a little bit. So I went to Pennsylvania, I went to Louisville, I went to Nashville. I would have never gone to those places if there wasn't a marathon. So this was kind of like my way of running and traveling. And I've also been to Rio de Janeiro for a half marathon. That was probably the best race ever, because a Brazilian friend of mine said to me, don't do it for the pace, do it for the views. And I was like, what does he mean? Like, I want to be like at least under 2 hours. And he says, do it for the views. And when I was running on Copacabana, I was like, he's right. It's the views, it's the enjoying the ambiente, and it was just so beautiful. So I've been traveled to many cool places.
It's funny you mentioned Rio de Janeiro. We just posted a story of Victor Costa, who I interviewed, who's from Brazil. And we discussed, running the Rio de Janeiro marathon, and how he doesn't think he would do it to race it. Even though he's from the area, he would do it, to enjoy the time with his friends and family. He's actually going to be racing New York City this year, as well as I think he raced Berlin last year. So it'll be interesting to get his take on all these different cities, which is what I want to ask you. You mentioned Rio de Janeiro. What other cities have you run in that have blown your mind in terms of being able to see it by foot as opposed to being in a motor vehicle and not really getting the true feel for the city?
I was running actually in Ottawa, and Ottawa was interesting because they say it's going to be cool, like 47, 50 degrees. When we started at 7 o'clock in the morning, it was 72 degrees. So you would know, oh my God, this is way too hot. And then the other thing was, it was in kilometers. So the kilometers came very fast, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then all of a sudden there was 26. And in my mind, it was 26 miles. And I was like, oh my God, this was so hard. This was so hard. And it was so hot. And on top of that, I was like, my friend, I knew he had a red t-shirt on. I was like, let me maybe wait for him. But then everybody had a red t-shirt on. I was like, what is this? So I don't know if I hallucinated or not. But then towards the end, there was a guy running towards the finish line. He had no shoes on. And I said to him, oh man, what happened to you? He's like, it's too hot. I had to take off my shoes. I'm like, oh. I kept my shoes on, and it was a little hot for me. But 72 in the morning at 7 o'clock, I think it went on probably to 90 degrees. It was a little hot.
Wow.
But you bond, and I think as a marathon runner, you always have to have 3 goals. The PR, which is the personal record. So I was running at 3:30 at that time. Okay, if it's 72 degrees, we cannot make it. What is the next best thing? 3:40 or 3:45, which was my qualifying time for Boston. That wasn't possible. The next goal was finish strong and with a smile on your face. I think that's all I wanted. And I think that's the marathon mentality that we all need to have. So you need to, in a way, visualize what is possible, do what you can, and then also be happy with the result, because we all have good days, bad days, and not so good days. And then the weather is always a factor. I mean, I ran the wettest marathon in New York City. It was just downpouring. I ran the coldest in New York. We had to have an extra layer. I ran the hottest marathon. So then you have to go obviously much slower than your training pace. And in some of the marathons, I would also train during the winter. So it was cold. And then you go to, let's say, Nashville or Louisville, and it's 70, 80 degrees and humid. So there is another element that you have to be comfortable with it. So it's all about training your mind, but then be realistic when whatever comes your way.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that, and I definitely want to talk more about your endurance sports journey, but talking about the marathon mentality kind of brings me to something that we had talked about before, which was kind of like adapting that mentality to being both an entrepreneur and also business coaching. So talk about adapting the marathon mentality to entrepreneurship and to business, and why it's important and how it helps you and how it helps others.
Yeah, I think as a solo entrepreneur, as an executive coach, it's always about adapting to the people that I'm working with. So everybody is a little different. And also, as a solo entrepreneur, you always think like, okay, we make $1 million the first year. Might not work out like that. So you have to adapt in maybe doing different things. Like I was a teacher, I organized an event for Latinos, and just tapping into different things that might be not what you want or not what people think you want. And then the marathon mentality has helped me in when you want to give up. You're like, no, it's not the time to give up. You're at mile 18 with your mindset. Take a goo, a gel, or whatever you like. Maybe you need to have some cookies or some whatever your reward can be, and you keep going. Because they say leaders do the 2% that nobody else will do. And at the end of the day, we're not celebrities, but I think this goes to show that anybody can do it if you want to add that extra 2% that nobody wants to do. And especially in a rainy day, in a rainy marathon, you could say like, this is not for me. Yes, I paid $250. But I think for me, it goes to show that I want to finish something what I started out to do. And especially I've trained for 3-4 months to do this race. So one day, if it's too hot, too cold, or rainy, you don't give up. You never give up.
So let me ask you this, right? So getting the person into that 2% range that most people don't want to get into, how do you work with business leaders? How do you work with athletes to get into that 2%? Because in today's world, it would be very easy to say, I've gotten here and I'm good and I don't need to do anymore. So what do you do to get people into that 2%? Because I'm fascinated by the endurance mindset and entrepreneurship. I think those two things are like peanut butter and jelly. They go hand in hand, right? I've always said I would hire somebody who's an endurance sports athlete immediately if they had the right credentials, obviously, over somebody who's not. And so I want to know how you get that person into that 2% range when a lot of people will say, I've gotten here and I'm good. I don't want to do the 2%.
I like to work with those people who do the extra 2%. I mean, the people who think like success is like a straight line up, only up. These are not the easiest people to coach or train, and especially athletes. When you see, let's say we train for a marathon, you put a plan together, you follow that plan. And then when it rains, you get a call. I'm like, I don't want to go out, it rains. I'm like, well, what if it rains on the marathon day? Now is the time to train. So you need to push them out of their comfort zone. And I remember one night as a running coach in New York City, it was pouring rain. Maybe there were like 10, 15 people coming to the class. And I saw 2 or 3 people. They were like, no, this is not for us. And one lady, I said to her, come with us. This is the most memorable night ever. And I mean, it was pouring rain. It's just, understated. We were drenched. But then I said, like, this is kind of like my funny thing, the mascara talk. I said to the ladies, hey, if your mascara is running down your face, tell somebody else, like, hey, maybe check your mascara, and we're all in this together. So this is kind of like funny, but this bonds us and this makes us stronger. And in the business, you might also have those rainy days when nothing is working. I had a day like the internet didn't work. I couldn't reach my clients. What did I do? I was like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. Well, you take a deep breath and you're like, what is the worst thing that can happen? You reschedule your appointments. Tomorrow is another day. But how you get to that 2% is, I think it's being a role model. I've done it. I know how it feels. And just provide that message to the others. And a lot of people, they're like, whatever you've done is easy. And I've had people said, oh, what do you do on Tuesday night? I'm like, I'm in the running class. I'm the coach. And people came, and they came once or twice. And then the 3rd or 4th week, they're like, oh, this is work. This is hard work. I'm like, yeah, that's why we're here. We show up every Tuesday night. We come. So it's about that consistency. It's about the determination. And again, it's never giving up. This is the key to success. It's hard work. It's hard work. It doesn't end. There's no finish line.
I always think about the phrase misery loves company, right? And I think about it in a positive aspect, that when I'm at a dinner party or I'm at a cocktail hour or meeting people who are entrepreneurs or who are endurance sports athletes, we bond over the hard moments that we've gone through, whether it's in training, whether it's in racing, whether it's in an idea that we had that has failed miserably. We find that bond together and sort of create our own community, our own fraternity, shall we say, in that concept of misery loves company, in that we can then turn around and laugh about it because we've learned from it. And I think that's what sets people apart from others who, when they have failure or miss out, they run away from it, whereas we're running towards it because we're like, hey, I learned about myself in this scenario and I can move forward and try it again the next time, and then again the time after that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about the whole process myself, and I think that there's such a I think that we live in such a results-driven world. It's like, what have you done lately? What have you achieved lately? And not so much like a process-oriented world. And you really have to enjoy the highs and lows of the process. And I think as endurance athletes, we definitely understand that. And I was just thinking about it, even us this morning on the run, you might have one goal race right now, and then there's always going to be a next thing, and there's always going to be a next goalpost. But I think when you look back, I think you realize that like everything, all the growth that you've gotten from those rainy days and everything is not from the results or that finish line. It's from that process, and like that bonding through adversity, that struggle. That's where the character is built. So I just, I see that in endurance coaching, and I see that in the marathons and the Ironmans and ultra running, and it's amazing to, you just don't know where the journey is going to take you, especially when you give yourself into that discomfort. So that actually brings me to, I mentioned triathlon and Ironman. That actually brings me to Ironman Lake Placid. I wanted to ask you about the experience, kind of taking it from the top. Like, when did you know that you wanted to do a triathlon? What was that training like? Because I've heard from so many people from outside the box, because I've never done one. And I've heard it from Jason, of course, who's done 8, like that it is like training is like another job. And so I wanted to talk about the process of getting there and the event itself. So starting with the process. I love it.
The medal, right? So this is gold for me. So I have a friend, and he has done, I think now 18 Ironman in Lake Placid. So obviously he was my idol. And I said, I want to do what you do. Little did I know how much it entails. And the funny thing is, at one point I was running a long run, probably was a little tired. I fell on this little route, and I was like dirty on my face, dirty on my shirt. And I came home, I still ran, and I signed up for a triathlon because I was also injured. I couldn't run so much. So then I got a bike. And then this whole journey started, and I'm like, well, if my friend Jerry can do it, I can do it too. It's just about the training. So again, it's a mindset. And then I got a coach, and he has a wonderful organization. It's called Run for Rob. I just want to mention that here. He's a fantastic person, and he guided me through the journey of getting to Lake Placid. And in a way, it's, if you have a goal, well, first I have to start probably years ago. To run Lake Placid or to participate in Lake Placid, you had to volunteer to get a guaranteed entry. So I would go to Lake Placid, and this was a year, again, they took out the swimmers because there was hail and thunder and everything. So they took out the athletes, and I'm like, oh my God. Then I went home and I took a little nap, I think, and I was like, do I really want to do that? Do I really want to do that? I really had to talk very honest with me and reflect, do I really want to do that? And then I'm like, if I don't do it now, I will never do it. So I was as a volunteer. I took the bikes when the people came off the bike, and we had to put it where we had to rack the bikes. And it was a pretty hard job, and it was hot and everything. And then the next day, so they gave us a little band and I think a little piece of paper. And the next day at 7:30 in the morning, again, it was raining. My dear friend, he drove me to the convention center, and I signed up. So I gave them my credit card. I put in the information. And then I got a little piece of paper again. Probably this was before online. I had to sit down and reflect. And I'm like, oh my God, this is real. This is real. So I texted a few people. I am in the Ironman in 2015. I had to sit down and quiet my mind because I was like, it's starting. So then it basically was a whole year that I was mentally able to prepare myself. And obviously I was a marathon runner. I finished a marathon. But then I think as of January, I started to train more the swimming and the biking. And I took a swim coach because I needed to be a little better swimmer. I'm still not the best swimmer, but I was able to do it. And then actually the training was fairly enjoyable. If that can be a word to use for training for the Ironman. But I was very fortunate that I was able to train in the morning, and I had my first climb at 11 o'clock. I don't know, the universe was helping me. So I was able to train at 6:30 to basically 10:30, and then 11 o'clock, I was the executive coach, and I was like, I've done all my training. And then in the evening, I was able to run again or do whatever I had to do. So the universe was helping me for the training. And I have to say, the training was really enjoyable, but I also had a great support system. And I have to emphasize on that. Have your support system ready. I had people running with me, people biking with me. And when I did my first and only 100-miler, I organized people to bike with me, maybe the first 50 miles, and then another person came to do the next 40. And then I think I did on my own the last 40 miles, which was the hardest. But have your support system ready, because alone I could have never done it. I think this is key to success. And then obviously on the day of itself, I had all my support system people around me, and they were texting each other. She's doing good. She looks good. And just to hear their stories after the fact was also kind of cool. But I think the race in itself is like the cherry on the cake or the dessert on the menu. But until you're there, and people say the most important thing is to be not injured to be at the start line. I was never injured. I was like happy. The only thing that I thought was very hard for me in the preparation was the food, actually. And they say this is kind of like the fourth discipline. I was basically only able to eat pasta, quinoa, rice. No at all. I'm not a big drinker, but like no alcohol for 3-4 months. I was like, this lifestyle is not really what I want. So I have this one medal. I think this is one Ironman, first and last one. It's a lifestyle if you want to keep doing that. I don't know, Jason, how it is when you do 8 or even more. But I enjoyed the whole journey. I would recommend it to everybody to have this medal in your hand. But it's a tough journey.
Absolutely. So I'm obviously born and raised in New York. So my first 2 questions for you about this training was, where were you swimming and where did you ride your 100 miles?
So swimming was in the Riverbank State Aquatic Center. So I had to get up early. 6:30 was the start, and then I was like swimming because they have the Olympic pool open, like the Olympic distance. So it's 50 meters, which is easy. And the bike we would go many times to Nyack. So over the George Washington Bridge, and then go to Nyack, Piermont, Bear Mountain, and then Bear Mountain Bridge to Cold Springs, have a little something to eat, and come back. So many miles on that. I think it's called 9W. So you see all the big people who bike are there.
Yeah,
it's a lot of hills, so it prepares you well for Lake Placid, which is basically only hills.
I lived as a kid just south of Bear Mountain in Tompkins Cove. And so I know that area extremely well. I know Cold Spring and Cold Spring Harbor extremely well as well. And so, yeah, it's a lot of hills. It's a lot of rolling hills in that area. And it's a great place to train for Ironman Lake Placid for sure. There's no doubt. I think the thing that you brought up that I want to touch base on a little bit with regards to support system from training and racing, regardless of the distance, but also business. I've talked to a handful of entrepreneurs, and one of the questions I asked them is, what would you do differently? Excuse me. And every person has said, I would have hired somebody sooner, right, to help build that support. So as an executive coach, as an athlete, as a running coach, do you emphasize that component in your conversations? And what's the pushback that you get from athletes, and how do you overcome that to help them understand, like, no, you do need a support system. You can't do this by yourself.
Yeah, we all know that obviously an Ironman or a marathon, you cannot have your squad behind you, but it's an individualistic sport. But training, you see all the Kipchoge from Kenya, he has his team, they're all helping him. And when you think about business, we always think like we can do everything by ourselves, me included, but I'm not a finance person, I'm not a CPA, so there I think it's first person to outsource. And I also have to say little things like having a cleaning lady. When I had a cleaning lady, I was like, my God, why didn't I have a cleaning lady sooner? The apartment was spotless. I was like, oh, this is the best. I could focus on so many other things. So if we think we can do everything, yes, I can clean my apartment, I can do my taxes, I can do everything, but you have so much more of a peace of mind, happiness, the apartment is clean, and you can focus on what you need to focus. So you're the visionary, you have a business, you can be creative, you don't have to clean the apartment as a very small example. That clogs up your mind. You're like, oh my God. And the thing is also, when your apartment is clean, your mind can open up, can be more creative. So you don't have to focus on the minutia that is just clogging your mind. I think that's what it is. And the support system can also be fun, right? So if you have a business, team up with a team of people that are fun. Like it seems like you and you have such a fun team. You're complementing each other. You don't want to go to work and you're like, oh, I hate my job. I hate my job. As an entrepreneur, there's many, I think, aspects of your solo entrepreneur, that you're like, I wish I had a person that I even can have a sounding board. Hey, what would you do? Do you think it's worthwhile? Or tell me, what is your thought on that? And this exactly is not a weakness, but you're exchanging ideas, and out of a crazy idea can come out like a fantastic idea, especially in business.
Yeah, I think you're perfectly describing by accident the relationship that Lori, and I have. Like, we bounce ideas off of each other constantly, and some of them are great, some of them are terrible, but we're throwing ideas around constantly to see what is the best move for us. And the thing that I want to touch on too is, when you talk about cleaning your apartment, I think that people need to understand two words. It's opportunity cost, right? You can either spend time cleaning your apartment, or you can work on your business, but you can't do both simultaneously. And I think people need to understand that with not only running a business, but also with endurance sports, right? So if you're training for an Ironman and you're swimming, right, you can't possibly be running as well. So you have to figure out what the strategy and the plan is to attack all three sports, so that you can get the most out of yourself, and what that opportunity cost is, right? Do I get in my car and drive 30 minutes to go swim? Or I could go and run today and save myself that time and swim tomorrow because I can fit it into my schedule better. What's my opportunity cost?
Yeah, absolutely agree about opportunity cost. It's definitely something I've learned through the course of like being a part of a business over the last 2.5 years. Like, I would always think about like what's in front of me, and then instead of like what opportunity am I missing out on by doing this or spending time on this, or like what could I be working on if I were to, like you said, outsource this. And there's really a lot to that. So it's really cool to hear that from somebody who's also in entrepreneurship, and like also I think in a funny way, I think the cleaning lady thing was also kind of like a metaphor too for that. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it definitely hit the nail for me. One of the things that I wanted to touch on is your show, your podcast that I was just on, Take It From the Iron Woman. You have over 400 episodes of that. You've done it in over 5 languages. Talk about why you got into podcasting, and does it have anything to do with what you were talking about sharing and exchanging ideas?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I've written a book, Take It From the Iron Woman, and then I've always wanted to interview interesting people, and that podcasting thing came around. I was like, this is it. This is now I need to. And I think I started in 2019 when there were maybe 1 million podcasts. Now there's, I think, 5 million podcasts out there. And we also know that a lot of them are dormant. So they have 10 or less episodes. That's called dormant. And again, I put on the marathon mindset or the Ironman mindset, and I was like, let's keep going, let's keep going. And at this point, I get people who say, oh, you need to interview this person. Or so I actually get people sent to my podcast, which is wonderful to have. And I started in 2019 thinking in 2020, the perfect vision, I would start. And we all know what happened in 2020, the pandemic. And actually, the podcast helped me get through the pandemic in a healthy way. I was actually nurturing my network, my running friends, my business friends, whoever came to me. And it was a nice time to exchange ideas and support each other. And yes, now today we have 420 episodes. And I like to use take it from the Iron Woman, almost like a grassroots organization. So I can interview you. He has done ultra marathons. I don't know how an ultra marathon can be. I think it's a little crazy, but yes, we need to hear from crazy people to maybe start to run or be inspired by a story of somebody, their house burned down. They have 3 children. What can we do? We need to have those people. Or I have a person from, we used to work together at Nestle, and she's losing her eyesight. Well, we want to be part of her journey. We want to help her to get into the next chapter of her life. And I'm very proud to say that we have 5 languages and we have people from all the continents. So I'm just, maybe some of the listeners find the Guinness Book of Record chapter so we can upload our podcast there. So that would be wonderful to find a niche, 5 languages and people from all the continents. But it's a fun way to get to know people, get to know different people, and also I think for me it's learning about others and how we can connect. And I just have to tell a success story. We had Shauna McDonald with us, and I met her on a webinar, and I checked her on LinkedIn, and another Shauna McDonald came up, and it says Shark Tank, Survivor, South Africa. So I reached out to her. I was like, she will never respond to me. She responded within a day, and she said, I actually know the other Shauna McDonald. So she was on my podcast. Fantastic episode with a lot of energy and sass and pizzazz and everything. So she connected me with the other Shauna McDonald, who is a lady who designs wheelchair for people who don't have the means, but she is actually working with United Nations. So she is the famous Shauna McDonald. Obviously, both are famous now. So I sent the episode to both of them when it came out. And now what will happen is that the 2 of them will sit together and see that they can collaborate. So this is exactly what I want on the Take It From the Iron Woman, that I can connect the people who have something in common. I don't have a product, but I'm the connector to other people.
You have given us so many lessons here today. And I think one of the ones that you just gave, unintentionally maybe, is make the big ask, right? You didn't know Shauna McDonald. Turned out it wasn't the right person, but hey, you made a big ask and they responded and things progressed well from there. One of the things that we share here at Run Try Bike is a mantra that says, take risks, stand alone, the community you need will show up. And the reason why we use that is because you should make the big ask. Like just before we came on this show, I sent a pitch to a client or a prospective client. I don't know who they are. I don't know where they're, anything about their business, but the fit is perfect for our product, Food Fight Friday at the aid station. And so I sent them a pitch, see what happens, right? Worst case scenario is they ignore it. That's it. Like you have to make the big ask. And I think that's a lesson that you just gave our listeners and the viewers that are here today, something to chew on, right? Like take the big ask, see what comes out of it.
Yeah. I think that goes back to a mantra that I have that we talked about, which is fail big. And we have another mantra here at Run Try Bike too, that failure is not terminal, it's the building block to success. And I think it's not just about the big ask, but it's also about like knowing that if you don't try, if you don't make the big ask, then the answer is always going to be no. The result is going to be immediately a failure. But if you give it a shot, at least you're giving yourself a chance. And I think that it's important to know that. And it's important to put yourself in the position to at least like try and see what happens, because you never know.
And I mean, like, if you don't try, trying is really actually not doing it. I have an example. I was invited to a talk with the founder of Chobani many years ago at the NYU Stern Business School. And I've written actually a blog about him, that he talks about his philosophy and everything. And I printed the blog out and I was like, should I give it to him? Shouldn't I? Shouldn't I? And then I said to myself, if I don't do it now, I will always regret. So I went up to him and I said, hey, thank you for your speech. I wrote something. And I don't know what he did. I never heard back from him, but at least I did it. And I think this also goes to show, if we take one step at a time, one day at a time, what I said in my TED talk, it's about taking that risk. And it's also, as an entrepreneur, you probably need to take more risks. Like what you said, Jason, you send a pitch to somebody, you don't know, it might work, it might not work. I have to, as an entrepreneur, as an executive coach, reach out to people like, hey, I would love to work with you. Do you want to work with me? And if you don't take the risk, you never know. And I think that's also what people like about you, because you're a risk taker and you're not afraid to take that risk. So that's the extra 2% that we do that others don't do. And I think if you're in a regular job, and don't get me wrong, please keep your job as long as you can. You have the steady paycheck, you have the vacation, you have all the perks, free lunch, whatever. Stay there, because people say, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, it's cool. I think an entrepreneur is very hard. It's very hard. It's 24/7. It doesn't end. There's no finish line. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But the steady paycheck does not come in every end of the month. If you need a steady paycheck, and I always ask the people, how much money do you need to make at the end of the month? And if they say $10,000, my next question is like, where do you have your first client who pays that much for you every single month? Think about that.
Send me a text message at 3 a.m. telling me how cool it is to be an entrepreneur. Like, I'm probably awake, mulling over everything. Like our May-June issue drops tomorrow morning on the Pacific Coast and early afternoon on the East Coast. And like, so all day yesterday, all day today, you're scrambling to get images and content and advertiser approval and all of these things that need to get done in order to put together a finished product. And when the public gets it, they see a finished product, but what they don't see are the text messages, are the emails, are the phone calls, the stress and the anxiety that goes into producing that finished product. And I have to say this, right? If you have a small business owner in your network, call them, text them, email them, congratulate them, ask them if there's anything you can do. Sharing a post, commenting on a post, it means the world to them. The folks at Nike, as much as I want them to spend money with us, that comment on their post means nothing to them. But that comment on that small running shoe company that, provided you a running shoe that you really love, tell them. It means the world.
Absolutely.
I've written like 700 blogs and also, again, 400 episodes. It takes a village to do all of that. And people are like, I don't have time for your newsletter or blog, or how much passion and hard work goes into that. And I remember my early days of running, I had a boss and he says, you're really passionate about this, enthusiastic about this running. And these were the days when nobody was running a marathon. And then I don't know, Jason, you might remember P. Diddy, the rapper, was running New York.
Yep.
And then everybody was like, you were faster than P. Diddy? And I was like, yeah, I was faster than P. Diddy. So then everybody was like, oh my God. And I also have to say, I was faster, maybe not a lot, by seconds, I think, by, now I forgot the name, Sanjay Gupta, the doctor.
Yep.
CNN, he had like a program for athletes. So I passed him. So these are my moments. And I also have to say that I took a class, and I need to say what class it was. It was social emotional intelligence. And there was this chubby Canadian professor. And he says, what do you do? And I'm like, I ran the marathon in New York City. And he says, did you win? And I looked at him and I said to him, no. And then in the break, I went up to him, and this was my proud, courageous moment. And I said to him, you know what? I might not have won the New York City Marathon, but my name is in the New York Times. And there were 30,000 people behind me, 30,000 people. And he was quiet. And it was about social emotional intelligence, where we talk about self-awareness and social competencies. So I was like, maybe he learned something. I hope he's listening here. But I think anybody who's finishing a marathon, I always say, we start at the same start line. We finish at the same finish line. Some people are a little faster than others, but everybody deserves that medal. And if you have that medal, it's not bragging, because nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can steal that. So I know there's a lot of people who run alongside the course. They don't get the medals. But if you have trained for it, you really deserve that medal. So we want to see more people running. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely agree with that. Susanne, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been fun. We've learned so many lessons. But before we let you go, and actually before we jump into our rapid fire food section, which is not hard-hitting questions, they're fun food questions, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. So take it from the Iron Woman. Obviously, it's a podcast. Like it and subscribe to it. It comes out every Monday. And my website is SusanneMueller.biz, B-I-Z. And yeah, just reach out to me. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also Substack.
Awesome, awesome. Jason, I'll let you take it away from here as we move into the rapid fire section.
This is going to be interesting because you're originally from Switzerland. You live in New York City. So food questions might be a little bit different from your experience. So it'll be interesting to see your reaction to this. We've already covered pineapple on pizza is a nay. Sorry, Izzy, I see that you've joined us on Instagram. Sorry, you didn't get a winner there. Oreo cookies. I don't know if that's something you're familiar with. You're already nodding your head no.
I don't like them. Sorry.
Well, that makes it easy then. Typically I ask the guest if they like the old school Oreos or the double stuffed Oreos, and since you don't like them at all, it doesn't matter which brand or which type I give you.
Yeah.
So the next question, are you a fan of licorice? No. Any sweets at all? Is candy a thing for you at all?
Yeah, I like the candies. They're called sugus in Switzerland. I don't know. They are like the little square ones, and they are pineapple, lemon, orange, and strawberries probably. I think they have a brand. I don't remember the brand in the US, but yeah, I like candy.
So is it like a hard candy, like you suck on it?
Yeah. It's like a little square. Mm-hmm.
So when you either training for a marathon or for your Ironman, what was one of the things that you just had to have after a hard training day when it comes to food?
Chocolate.
What kind of chocolate? Because it clearly is an American chocolate.
I like any dark chocolate. So Trader Joe's has a very good chocolate, or obviously the Swiss chocolate, and also Swedish fish or the sweet and sour jelly. I love a lot. That was kind of like my go-to after a hard training session.
What were you eating on the bike at Ironman Maryland? What was your go-to food when you were riding during the race?
Bread with almond butter and Nutella, because I feel like when I'm not training, I cannot eat Nutella all the time. But while I was doing Ironman, this was my reward. Nutella was the key to success.
I love it. You can only eat one thing for the rest of your life because we're going to put you in a spaceship and blast you to Mars with Matt Damon, and you're going to get sweet potatoes up there on Mars. So what's the one thing that what's the last thing you're going to eat before you get in that spaceship?
Thai food.
Thai food. You like spicy food then?
Yeah.
Was loves it.
I couldn't eat it while I was training for the Ironman, but then after, Thai food all the time. I love it.
Oh my God, I love a good penang curry. So good.
I get hungry.
Yeah, and it's almost 9 o'clock over on the East Coast, so we're probably diving into your dinner time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Favorite restaurant in New York City to go eat at?
I think it's a chai, what is it called? Oh my God, I lost the name. Something chai coffee place or chai, something in Thai. I cannot tell.
Where is it?
It's on 55th and 7th Avenue.
All right, next time I'm in Manhattan, I remember to go there. 55th and 7th Avenue, I'll just go find a Thai food joint.
Yeah, it's very small.
What are you putting on your pizza, if anything at all, since it's not pineapple?
I love mushroom.
Mushrooms? Same here. So good. Excuse me. Ice cream. Are you a fan of ice cream?
I love ice cream. Like
favorite flavor?
Mocha and pistachio.
Oh, yeah. See, pistachio, I think, is a really big European flavor. Not so much here in the States, but it's so good.
Yeah.
Do you prefer gelato over ice cream or ice cream over gelato?
Both. Both is good. and a lot.
I love it's like, do you want ice cream or gelato or what dessert? Yes, all of it.
Yes, all of the above.
As a matter of fact, give me a carton of sorbet while we're at it too.
I think so, yeah.
Want to eat it all. All right, so our last food question for you is, there's a tray of brownies in front of you. Are you going to eat the corner edge where it has a little bit of crusty crispiness to it, or are you going straight to the middle where it's a little bit more ooey gooey?
No, the crust is the fantastic part. Okay, and all of it. I mean, if you're training for an Ironman, I think you can eat a lot of brownies, but they have to be the good brownies, not like the one out of the box, or the gooey and the crust. Yeah, I'll go for it.
Do you put nuts on your brownie? And if so, what type of nuts?
Walnuts? I think just walnuts, yeah.
How about, since you're a fan of ice cream, what flavor ice cream are you putting on top of your brownie to make it a la mode?
Vanilla ice cream.
Oh. See, I thought you would go with mocha or coffee, because when you put coffee on top of the brownie and it melts, it makes it like a mocha.
Oh, maybe you have to try that out. Okay.
Yes. So here's my tip for you. If you can, put the brownie in the bottom of a mug and then put the ice cream on top of it and scoop it that way. So as the ice cream melts, then you have all of that coming together in like a big scoop of mocha. It's so good.
This is
can
not
can we add a hot coffee on it? And it gives you what you want. Okay, I know what I want tomorrow. Okay.
It's almost like an affogato at that point if you're adding the hot coffee to it.
Okay.
Oh my God, this is not fair, dude. I have a 1 hour run and a 45-minute strength workout. It's not fair.
I'm going to the gym right after this conversation myself, so I feel you.
I'm having some ice cream now.
Perfect. Thai food followed by ice cream. I can't think of a better combination to have.
God. Perfect.
Susanne, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are listening, SuzanneMueller.biz, go to her website. I was there for maybe 5 minutes and I've got 6 or 7 questions already written down and ideas and thoughts. So she's got a lot of information for you on there. Go check it out. Susanne, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to having you on the show again in the near future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And one step at a time, one day at a time, please start running or biking or swimming.
Thanks, guys. Make sure to join us next week on Tuesday, the 21st, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time for the 108th episode of Fireside Chat. Have a great night.